Now, say my name.
The Rolling Bad Podcast.
You're goddamn right.
Coming to you almost live from the State of Confusion in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, it's the Rolling Bad Podcast, episode number 151. It is August 13th, and I'm your host, Bill. Trees, dinos, waffles. I'm just a mess over here. Castello, and with me?
From a similar state, it's Joshua. I can't feel my face because of these allergies.
Ain't that the truth?
We are both dazed and confused today.
Yes.
We got a lot of rain here in the desert. I know it sounds weird, but we got a lot of rain here, and all those pollinators decided to throw up their confetti.
Yeah.
And the wind came right after the rain and just blasted us all in the face. So we're a little loopy.
I've never seen so many people that just don't even have allergies suffering with symptoms.
Yeah.
And, I'm just living on Claritin and, hoping for the best. Probably avoiding doing anything that requires long-term decision making.
Right.
Hopefully.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where you have that kind of sinus pressure and you just like, for those who don't understand, it is weird.
Yeah.
Right? It's like almost having a headache, but
Right.
not quite. And so you feel the pressure, and so you just kind of like feel like maybe a sock's over your head kind of thing. You're like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like I found myself like building models and just staring at a couple parts for a really long period of time. And I'm like, where am I?
Yeah. What assembly is this?
Yeah.
Oh, and I get that feeling.
Yeah.
When we get to battle, I'll talk to you about why a 6-turn game took 6 days. Literally 6 days. But we'll get into that. So I gotta say, not allergy related, but just stupid human related. So we announced the contest last time, and I sort of expected some emails to come in, 1 or 2, maybe. I don't know. There's like 4 listeners out there. I got nothing for like week and a half. Nothing, not a damn thing. And I'm like, wow. I mean, the numbers don't really show that we have no listeners.
Yeah.
And I can't believe that nobody wants stuff. That's so strange. And it dawned on me that we called it a contest. And since the email address for the show is a Gmail address, you put contest in there, and guess what? It goes right to your junk.
Yep.
So I started going through the Gmail junk, and I'm like, moved inbox, moved inbox, moved inbox. I sat there for probably about 20 minutes moving things to the inbox. I have now cleared the term contest. So, yeah.
So all 4 of our listeners sent in emails.
Yeah, I got those good 4 emails. Yeah. I do want to say, I want to thank people for some of the really nice comments in some of the emails. It's really, I appreciate you. Good stuff. And just about everybody doesn't care about saying their name on. So that's cool. I guess nobody's in WITSEC or witness protection, So.
Bill doesn't share these emails with me. He hoards them like a dragon. That's his gold.
How do I give you access to? I'll figure out how to give you access to the Gmail account. Because I gotta do that. I gotta figure that out. So it's just that, I set those things up and then I forget about them. And I'm like, whatever.
Set it and forget it.
Yeah, it just works. Emails come in and, okay, great. So
Gmail by Ronco.
Yeah, pretty much.
There's a throwback for all of you.
God. I'm Ron Popeil. Try my Vegematic. Okay, it's better than the next pillow. Anyway, sorry. I do want to throw a big shout out to Reese Robbins out there at Frontline Gaming. Got married recently. They're going to do the big, oh my God, wedding next year, but they wanted to tie the knot early, so they did. So congrats, Reese.
Congrats.
Many happy returns on the day, Yeah, so today in lore, we're actually going to be concluding the narrative series. We're going to just finish off the execution section and get into that point of actually making the pack for the narrative event. What a pain in the butt that's going to be.
Can't wait.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to cover in lore today, mostly because there's really nothing else to cover. It's not like, there's been great AOS releases lately. I'm looking at you, cities.
Here's knocking on wood. In 2 weeks, we're going to be...
just inundated.
Yes.
All right, shall we get into what passes for New Dawn?
Yeah. I mean, there was some stuff that came out yesterday on the shelves, but the pre-orders were
Middle
there.
a Middle Earth diorama, and some books. Oh, a star player for Blood Bowl.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he looks really cool.
Yeah.
But that's also the Forge World stuff. So,
and I'm just like, it's been a month since we've had a tangible. I mean, we had the really cool, what's his name book, the Astra Militarum book, which is really cool. The metal is really neat. The last month has been bleh.
I don't know if it's like, they're letting, see, my brain's already not working.
Yeah.
they're letting 10th edition sink in, because those are going to have some major releases coming up pretty quick. And they just been blue balling us with this Cities release. Like, they keep talking about it. See how cool this is. Now we know, like, the entire new line of miniatures coming out. Yeah. But nothing yet. My prediction is today.
Yeah.
I've been wrong before. So
I don't, the thing is with all the different websites covering the book, the embargo must have been lifted, but just the deliveries didn't make it on time for large scale distribution.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking you're right. I'm thinking what's probably going to happen is this week is going to be, for AOS people, here's all your Cities of Sigmar stuff. And then for the 40K people, here's all the Tyranids. And it's going to be this glut of, here's 50 new models.
Right.
Open your wallets, people. Oh, God.
Well, the Cities stuff, I think it looks interesting, how they sort of like re-envisioned, the old Cities stuff. I really like the Manticore. Yeah. The crazy priestess being hauled around by two dudes is really interesting, but they're leaning into a very interesting aesthetic that's actually really dark.
Yeah.
And I mean, Harbingers, as hopefully everyone's read it by now, like is suggesting it's going to be bad. But I was, it's like, I can't believe we have another shooting army. Like, everything they've shown is pretty much like, yeah, you can have the horsies to run around and get objectives and some mooks in the way, but
sure,
you really want the dudes with the shooty shields and the giant cannons.
Yeah.
And some dudes standing on Ogryn, right, with their machine guns. I was like,
yeah, it's a different tack, and I think they're really trying to separate the Sigmar version of Cities from any comparison to the old world that's coming.
Exactly.
So once they made that divide very set in stone, it'll be interesting to see if Cities is an extension of Lumineth when Lumineth started. With just that super heavy shooting meta.
Yeah.
And then they came along, and I mean, within how long did we get 3 codexes to sort of refocus Lumineth a little bit without changing their flavor all that much?
Yeah, and they just made it so pretty much any play style with them is viable. I mean, you always have heavy casting, but now you can play with cows.
Yeah, right. You can do that ground-based, I'm going to beat you up rather than just shoot you down. I think Cities is going to have, when you look at how big that range is, I think there's a lot of neat options there, and I think they filled some holes.
Yeah.
So, which is good, because some of those holes that needed filling were resin.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be different now, and I'm really hoping it injects a lot of flavor and new stuff into the storylines. I think it is, just based off of what they've said about the characters so far.
Yeah.
The Girl Manticore and the Priestess, like, they are specific characters, and they, I don't know how I feel about them going out and preaching the good word of Sigmar. It's pretty dark.
The invisible god.
Right.
Everyone has a model. All the gods have models. And they do stuff. They are active participants in the world. Sigmar sits back and is like, I need this, brah.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, really? Okay, whatever.
Open another chamber.
Yeah.
Why don't you come down and help? I said open another chamber.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Did you not hear me?
Right.
I am a god.
Right.
Okay.
The only way we're going to get Sigmar onto the Mortal Realms is if he trips and falls out of his ear at this point.
I understand the difficulty with, it's like when you do a Primarch.
Yeah.
You're going to do it wrong. Just get over the idea and just do what you want to do.
Yeah.
You come out with Roboute Guilliman, and half the people are going to love him and half the people are going to hate him. Mm-hmm. You cannot win that fight. So just make a freaking Sigmar and, give the Stormcast some hope, which is not true because Stormcast plays so well these days. And so let's get out of New Dawn because it's disheartening.
Yeah.
And it's sad. But
knock on wood. News at 11.
Yeah, I'll bet you today is going to be a really big, big day. well, next Saturday will be a really big day, and then...
Make sure you join us tonight for the news at 11.
Okay, the lady may be pretty, but the releases aren't.
This, it's not news at 11. It's a crow eating session.
Yeah.
So I thought cities would have launched.
I was right there with you. I would not have argued.
You know, I didn't think they were going to be this deep into the releases of 10th edition coming out. They were going to release cities.
Yeah.
But what we got instead are just some repacks of 40K stuff. So
yeah.
The first one, because, you know, people still really want to buy this.
Yeah, if you missed an entire edition.
Space Marines Vanguard Task Force. So this is the Phobos one. So you get like, what, 10 infiltrators. You get 3 eliminators and 3 suppressors and a lieutenant in case you didn't have one. So this this was the start collecting before they revamped all the combat patrols.
Yeah.
Right? Which essentially they just broke that out of... Oh God! Which box was that? It was before.
This was not Indominus.
It was before Indominus.
Yeah, just
right.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I guess that means they're all going to be the monopose ones from the looks.
Yeah, this is no different. This is. I mean, the scouts are the cloak-wearing old scouts. None of this is, like you said, it's a repack.
Yeah, they did break out the captain with relic shield and lieutenant with storm shield.
Yep.
Originally, those were only in either Indominus or in the big start collecting box.
Yeah.
Master Possession, first time alone, right?
Yep.
He's really good right now with Possess. So if you don't have a Master Possession, it's a good time to get one.
Sure.
Then from there, it gets into the kill team stuff. So they got the annual coming out.
2023 Season of the Gallowdark.
Yep. It's all the rules from Into the Dark, Shadow Vault, Soulshackle, and Gallowfall with all the kill teams, missions, and the like, right? There's also a campaign in there, too.
Those annuals are really good. I got to say, they do a bunch of good work on those. So.
Oh, for sure. Now, the Felgor Ravagers, Hand of the Archon, the Hearthkin Salvagers, and the Inquisitorial Agents are all getting their individual box releases. Yes. They just had to super nerf the Felgor Ravagers because they were busted.
Broken.
Yeah, they were just mean. And the Inquisitorial Agents had to get a little bit of a downgrade, too, because they were playing the blue deck, and people don't like that.
I'm going to... No, you're not.
Yeah.
No, I was going to... No.
Yeah.
Just no. Whatever you want to do, no.
Yeah. What's this 1 CP I get to counterspell you? Yeah. But I needed that to win. I know.
Yeah. So you can't.
Yeah. So the way they change it up is you can only use it once per strategic or tactical ploy that they do.
Yep.
Right. So you can never counter the same one twice. Got some terrain bits coming out as well.
That looks really cool, box. The kill zone upgrade Gallowfall.
All those really cool little pieces.
Yeah.
That came in all the different, or this is specifically for Gallowfall, right?
Yeah.
Those cool little pieces that if you didn't get the big box, you weren't going to get. Now you can purchase the smaller pieces. A lot of scatter terrain. This stuff is amazing for Necromunda.
Yeah, I mean, not
Just
only
absolutely
Necromunda,
amazing.
but, you know, if you do any kind of space-based role-playing game stuff, these are all just generic sci-fi tables, consoles, little chambers. You know, you can do a lot with this. It's a neat little box.
Yeah, I love how they even have like the surgery bath or whatever it is, you know. Absolutely beautiful terrain. I love those little pieces. And then we go to Horus Heresy. If you're an Imperial Fist player, ooh, it's time because you get your Imperial Fist Praetor in Tartaros Terminator armor. He comes with the shield. Actually looks pretty cool.
He is. He's very cool looking.
He's very cool looking. So if you play Imperial Fists in just normal 40K, now you have a really cool captain you can bring.
Yep.
Right? Hey, you don't need to buy that one that's got the relic shield,
Sure.
right?
You can buy this guy.
Buy this guy. He looks super freaking cool.
Because he's got a cooler cloak.
Yeah. And a cooler sword.
Yeah.
It's got a lightning bolt on it.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a lot more of those. Too much love to the Imperial Fist recently.
True.
Black Library, Warhawk in paperback. If you didn't like the idea of having the hardback, now you got the paperback.
Exactly.
Amazing book.
Yeah.
My favorite Primarch right there. Going toe-to-toe with his stinky older brother.
Stinky older brother.
And, God, that's a hell of a fight. That's
Yes.
a hell of a fight, Bill.
Yes, it is.
I want to talk about the next thing, Bill. This is something you're pretty excited for.
Yeah, so in the ongoing release of the really cool scroll-based maps, you have the devastation of the Imperial Palace interior map. So again, this one is not so much of a map as really a depiction, really, of what the Imperial Palace looks like after the devastation. But again, very, very cool. It's got the pleather cover, but the maps are all cloth. Those maps are so very cool.
Yeah.
I love them all. I just don't have anywhere to put them, which is really, I'm buying all of them, and I just don't have anywhere to display them, which really, I'm pretty sure I'm going to brick up the windows in this room to give me more wall space. So just so I can hang things. I had to put my Tanith banner on my lanyard thing. So, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I'm running out of room. I need to buy a bigger house or ask the wife to move out. Neither one of which is probably going to happen anytime soon. So,
Yeah, you just build another wall.
oh, I like it. I could have it. No, I don't want to do that. No. Stop it. Okay. So, yeah, that's the news at 11, which to me is, I guess we'll talk about it in After Dark.
Yeah.
Because I'm gabberflasted that nothing for 10th, nothing for AOS. And this is just literally repacks. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, well, disappointed me again, GW.
I don't know the meaning of this, but I will find it. So,
All right, yeah, we'll talk more about it after dark.
on with the show. So, shall we go into creation?
Yeah, it looks like you've been busy.
Not really.
Oh, come on.
I finished up 27 more mechs for BattleTech and got them shipped out. So that commission is completely done and dusted. So that one's kind of neat. That one was sort of a fun paint scheme because it was sort of a Karita-based thing, but it was red fading to black.
Oh.
And it was kind of fun to do. I really enjoyed playing with that one and playing with the airbrush and, getting it all knocked out, picking out details. So I built some more Shatterpoint stuff, of course, because that's what you do. But on the big news, I know last time we had a show, I said, yeah, the Duncan Rhodes, I got the shipping notification for the Duncan Rhodes Wave 2 paints.
Yeah.
And I'll be waiting for 6 months or so. And literally that week they came in. And I was like, wow, that's amazing.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, and of course, I am a huge convert. I'll get a lot more in After Dark, but huge convert to the Duncan Road paints. It's just the GW paints, but better.
Yeah.
In a much better bottle, for one thing, and just much better thought out. I mean, he almost is exactly duplicating the range, but like in this Wave 2, he not only brings back all the really good metallics that are missing from the line, but he also brings back the glazes.
Oh.
The old, Bloodletter and what was the yellow one? I forgot what the yellow glaze was.
Oh, Lamenters?
The Elementers yellow. They're all back.
Oh, wow.
As well as a purple glaze that's a little too dark. It's more like a wash than a glaze. And yeah, it's so nice to have. And of course, he's not stupid. Right there with the pack is the complete GW equivalency chart for the Wave 1 and the Wave 2. So exactly, if it called for Calidor Sky, this is what you use. And so you can just duplicate all of the GW recipes exactly. I'm guessing there's going to be a Wave 3 to fill in. There's like 120 paints out there now.
Yeah.
In that range. And I'm guessing he's going to have like one more release to catch the really weird outliers, the Corvus Blacks, the what's his name? Just some of the weird base colors that he didn't attempt yet. And maybe Wave 3 will only be like 20 or so. I don't know. But it's cool. It's really, those are such good paints. They're expensive as all hell. But now that more and more stores are starting to carry the displays, they're easy to get. So
How much are they? Like $5-6 a bottle?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in milliliter for milliliter, they're the most expensive paints on the market. But they're quite good. And if you're into that GW mentality and you want to take the next step and start using a paint that doesn't dry as you look at it in the pot, it's an easy stepping stone because they're all the paints are represented. So it's just a thought. And that was my creation. What you got?
So, talked about it before a little bit, but I got the Space Wolves Dreadnought itch, and I want to make that army, just because it's a meme at this point. So I have 3
Just
Space Wolf Dreadnoughts now.
Anders got to you.
No, I didn't. I got to myself, and I was like, I wonder if you could do all these you can do all these Dreadnoughts, right? There are 2 armies that can really do it right now. It's Blood Angels and Space Wolves. Technically, Blood Angels can get 1 more of their own dreadnoughts in because they can take librarian dreadnoughts and they're
Right.
not epic.
Yep.
So you can take 3 librarians, 3 Furioso, and 3 Death Company dreadnoughts. So you can take a total of 9 of those. Space Wolves just look cooler. So I built Bjorn, Murderfang, and a Space Wolf Vendread. That one is sub-assembled because I want to be able to pop on whatever weapon options I need.
Nice.
Right?
Nice.
Because, I mean, like, yeah, it's tempting just to do all melee, but you've got all those Wolf and Dreadnoughts that are
Yeah.
pure melee.
Yeah.
And you just run those up the board with Murderfang.
Yeah.
And then you have a gun line in the back, as they move forward. But the way you can kit them out, I mean, like, I'm just looking at the options. It's like, so I can take, like, a Dreadnought fist weapon and a really good gun, but I don't get the invuln, right?
Right.
So it's like, how do I balance that out? But the Dreadnought weapon itself is stronger than the Space Wolves ones are. Just that the Fenrisian Axe gives you a sweep mode.
Yeah.
Murderfang, of course, he's stronger. He's got like strength 14 on his, but only AP 2, which was weird. Bjorn's got True Claw, which is similarly super strong. I just think it'd be fun to push boxes up the board with some Iron Priests right behind them, giving them +1 to hit as they go into combat. And it, the Wolf and Dreadnoughts have OC0, so you just send them in to murder what they can and explode afterwards.
Yeah.
And then you have the other ones walk up and handle things.
Yeah.
But there's some tech I'm trying to play with. Like if I can play the meme list where it's like 11 Dreadnoughts and like 2 Iron Priests or something like that.
Yeah.
But then you can put in Infiltrators for some play. So I built all those. I built Skabbix almost completely. But
That warband sucks.
there was a head missing from my kit.
You're kidding me. No. Oh my God.
Nope. I was like, did it fall off somewhere? I scoured everywhere for it.
Oh my God.
Everywhere I would be, I lifted everything up, and I was just like, it had to have never been here, right?
Wow.
So I've got a headless Itchit,
That's awesome.
right? So probably just so I've already emailed customer service
Yeah.
on it. I'll probably just get like a Plague Monk head from the normal kit and try and fashion it on there. Won't really fit, but it'll be something.
Just have them carry it.
Right? Oh goodness. Or do something nurgly coming out of it.
Yeah,
That could be a
just
thing.
put a tentacle coming out.
Oh god.
That'd be fun, and you know it.
Yeah, it would be fun. It would be fun. Or I could take the rat that's coming out of the of the Lord
my
of
God.
Blights and have that going into the hole.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah, and that's one of the things with the Blight Kings, where if you didn't notice, they are quite graphic.
A little.
Yeah, so they have little surprises for you. Then I also have half painted my Thousand Suns Combat Patrol.
Nice.
I'm dreading the trim right now.
Oh gosh, yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, I'm painting the white before I paint the trim because I was like, white's easier than this.
Wow. Okay. When you say white's easier, okay.
Yeah, but I have to say, we'll give it to him. That Corax White updated formula is so good.
Yeah,
It's so good.
Much, much better.
That with a little Soul Blight shade on it.
Yep.
And then work back up to White Scar. It's amazing.
Yep.
It's amazing. So that's what I did. I'll be probably ranting about Skabbix in After Dark.
Yeah. Because,
Yeah.
they're good.
They're pretty good.
They're good.
Yeah.
I think they're OP and should be banned.
Oh, yeah. We're going to ban them right away. You're not allowed to take half of their deck.
Right. Your opponent cuts your deck and keeps half.
Right.
Whoa, that's a hell of a balance change.
Yeah. For every victory you score, your opponent does as well.
Oh, God.
Oh, Lord. Yep.
We're bad at rules.
That's why we're not on the design team. Right.
Could be.
Right.
Could be.
Yeah, that's creation.
All right, jump into battle then.
Yeah, I'll do mine pretty quick.
Okay.
So I did my first Combat Patrol game with the Thousand Suns on Friday. I played against World Eaters. Interesting game. It's like fairly balanced in a sense. It doesn't have all the full 40k rules. Like you still go to points even if you're tabled.
Yeah.
All of your battle line units have sweep and clear. So it's really interesting. Thousand Suns, I mean, the only thing that really hits hard are your Terminators.
Yeah.
So you've got, 20 Zangor bodies and 2 10-men units. You got your leader that's okay. right? He's got a flamer attack. By the way, I rolled hazardous, failed it both times.
Oh my God.
And he blew himself up.
Wow.
Which was awesome. But I was just like, yeah, no, I think you always do the hazardous, right? Because like statistically, you know, you have a 17% chance of taking mortals. So it's like, yeah, let's do it. One. Huh.
Okay.
All right. Next time I'm like, all right, let's do this on Overwatch. 2d6. I rolled a 4 in Overwatch. I was like, are you kidding me? And then he blew himself up. So
wow.
It was awesome. Termies hit real hard. They hit real hard.
Like trucks.
Yep. I was able to charge them into the leader, which is the guy on mount, on Juggernaut.
Yeah.
And I didn't even get through all of my attacks before he died.
Nice.
I killed him with a Wappajack from the sorcerer leader. I was like, all right, cool. So I all 3 hit and wound. Okay, this is good. All right. Yeah, so that's 8 damage.
I'm sorry, so what?
Yeah. It's because it's D3 each, right? So 3D3 and it was 8. And I was like, holy cow, where were these numbers earlier when I was trying to save?
Yeah, when I was trying to not blow up.
Yep. So yeah, I was like, oh, there go all my prospering Kopeshes, I guess.
Nice.
But yeah, it was an interesting game. I'm developing the Harbingers campaign. If Anders is going to have a slot for it, probably about 3 weeks coming up here in the fall, probably beginning of October or something like that. And so we're going to follow the Harbinger. It's got some sweet treats for people in there that probably going to make some people salty.
I was going to say the note here says anticipating salt.
Yeah, because I want to do this really fun thing because I want it to be like a big battle at the very end, right, from each one of the respective Grand Alliances. So I still have to work out the logistics with Anders because it'd probably be like an all-day final.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to have, if possible, one representative from each. I'll limit the points probably to like 1,500.
Yeah.
If not 1,000. And then if I can get it done, I would like for, and I need to talk to people around the shop to see if anyone has them, someone to bring in and play their Harbinger itself. Oh, shit. Right?
Yeah.
And they can take up to like 500 points with the Harbinger. And they, will come in at different phases depending on which Grand Alliance is where, in terms of overall points and all that. And no named characters.
Ooh, yes, thank you.
Right? So no one's bringing in Sigvald. No one's
Morathi.
Right?
No.
I'm going to try and build in quick limiters to it too, so that way it stays fairly balanced throughout. Because I want it to be like fun games, where people just don't feel like they get blown out.
Yeah.
I really would like to see this. Like it has to happen in over 3 weeks, so I need to be pretty vigilant about it. But
yeah,
I'm going to make it pretty fun at the finale. If someone saves up enough glory, then they can spend it in the finale to summon the leader of their faction.
Oh, wow.
And they'll be with them. But the thing is, they don't control them, right? Because you don't control a god.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Gods control themselves. So I would be playing the god.
God.
Right? And it would be consistent with what their strategies are and all that, right? But sure. I would be the one piloting them almost like it's a creature on the board, you know?
Make it incarnate. And
yeah. So, someone might be able to summon in Nagash, right?
Jesus.
Summon in Morathi, Alariel, depending on who gets where.
Kragnos?
Kragnos would be a fun one, wouldn't
he? Yeah.
And I might just throw that element in there, right? Because you have all 4 of the Grand Alliances converging, and so, it's summoning things of immense power to them as well.
Avatars are cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be a lot of fun.
And then more in After Dark on this, but I was on the news recently.
Yes, you were.
For winning was probably one of the hardest and most important cases in my career so far. It was a case where a mother murdered her 5-week-old baby. And it was rough. I'll save a lot of it for After Dark because it is not family-friendly content.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was my biggest battle over the last 3 weeks.
That was a big win. And I know when I saw it hit the news little blurb that she changed her plea to guilty, I was like, "Ooh, I know that guy. I know what he did."
Yeah, so just so everyone can hear this part of it is we didn't even complete the trial.
Right.
I was working with the primary detective on the crime scene, and we were introducing physical evidence and photographs. And I introduced the photographs of the child, and at that point she said she couldn't take it anymore, and she wanted to plead guilty. She pled straight up, and she's facing life in prison.
Damn. Yeah, but more of that in After Dark.
Oh, yeah.
Going on to my battle, I think we're done with yours, right?
Yeah.
I played the first 2 of the new BattleTech League games. Both were hilarious in different ways. I won one, lost one, and just absolutely hilarious games, just kind of rolling on the floor laughing the whole time, just because of the crazy things that happened and this amazing random events table that has been implemented, and just having these little twists in the game just go completely nuts.
Yeah.
So much fun. It was ridiculous. I said on here they were comedy of errors. There's such a big pack for this campaign that we were doing like half a dozen things wrong, which is why the organizer was attending all the first games.
Yeah.
So that he could go over what he meant and we could sort of polish the rules pack, because some things were written very badly. So the new version of the pack is out. It's going to be a little bit clearer going forward. Good. But those are really fun games. Played some games at Shatterpoint. Actually kept track of them this time and actually went 3-1. I was kind of shocked. But that game is just all over the place. You can be so far ahead on a certain turn, and then all of a sudden, just things break the other way, and it's like you find yourself behind all of a sudden. You're like, what? Oh, God, it's so much fun. It's nuts. And then, of course, the 6-day AOS game.
Ah, yes.
So, and this was allergy related, because quite literally, the way we were doing this was, working a full day at work, going and having some dinner, and then settling down to play as much as we could before literally the sinus headaches got to the point to where we were like, no, sorry, I've got to drug up and get some sleep. So, 6-turn game, 6 days. I brought my BCR, which was, I thought, going to be a huge mistake. No, it was actually a freaking blast. And I got to say, this battle pack, Hoarfrost, is your friend.
Yeah.
If the other guy has it and you don't got it, Hoarfrost is your enemy.
Yeah.
Hoarfrost be good.
Is BCR versus what?
Oh, I was the Daughters of Cain.
Oh.
So.
Oh, really?
Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Did you just monster truck over them or what?
At several points during the game, it was you just can't handle this amount of incoming wounds.
Yeah.
Sorry. And when they did get to slap back, it was usually brutal. It would take down units, but minimizing that ability was just super key. It actually did come down to turn 6, mostly because the sheer number of bodies. And one of the things I said on here was we forgot to do points. We didn't forget to do points, but at a certain point during the game, we started off with our 2K lists.
Yeah.
And I think it was about turn 3 or the third day, we decided to add back everything that had died. So, we just put them on the far edge, the deployment zone for each. We were just going to have some fun and fart around with it. We weren't being super competitive. We were being sort of just loosey-goosey about it. It was a fun game, but like I said, we would literally get 40, 45 minutes into it and just, we're right down in the middle of the desert, and it was just hellish. It was nuts. You get to the point where your sinus headache is so bad you can't see out of one eye.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm going back to the room.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, that's awesome.
And just, one night, we didn't even really start playing because he just got into a sneezing fit, and it didn't stop.
Oh, my God.
It just didn't stop, and he was like, this is miserable. And we went to the local pharmacy, and they were completely out of, Claret and anything for allergies. They were completely out of. And I was like, well, I know meth is big around here, but this is ridiculous, And the pharmaceutical guy, the pharmacist, was like, put your name on this list. We're getting a shipment tomorrow, and we will text you when it comes in. I'm like, wow, you're like in emergency measures. And he's like, yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
Okay. That explains everything.
Oh, man, the monster truck list, though, in BCRs, like the Frostlord on Stonehorn, he has that monstrous rampage where, I charge, and I kept charging.
And it's especially against, Daughters, where they melt to that charge, and they're not real good at handling that mortal wound output. And so, you can maneuver yourself halfway across the board with a good charge.
Yeah.
Or you can get held up by one stupid snake lady who doesn't die and then proceeds to literally lay you out for the rest of the Murder Sisters to just come up and slice you to ribbons.
Yeah.
And when he did, I was kind of pulling for him at this point because I had a pretty big lead. And I was like, yeah, that'd be good. Plus, the model that he was fighting was the one that had the weak magnet for the head, so the head kept falling off. So, because the way my BCR is made, all of the bodies are just bodies, and they have big magnets. So I can slap any head I want. So I can make any kind of big critter I want.
Yeah.
Be it Frostlord or Stonehorn, Thundertusker or Stonehorn. And so, but one of the magnets is just set back far enough that it's not exactly as strong as the others. And every now and again, you'll just be playing the game and boonk, the head will fall off. And he's like, well, that monk's dead.
Yeah.
The head falls off. It should be dead. No, because that one had my priest on it and you don't get to kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of interesting playing around with that game, and having allies to bring in sorcery was sort of fun. So yeah, we were having a good old time.
Which allies did you bring in?
You're gonna laugh. I brought in Stormcast, and it was just really, if I'd had my druthers, I would have brought in probably Lumineth, but I just couldn't see them working with them. The Stormcast, I could kind of be like, they're ogres, but they're not that bad.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of weird, but it was fun to get a little of them. And I said and I didn't say this in creation, but I put everything off my plate now, and I've got to work on the Seraphon for Nova, because I decided finally I want to take that, although I'm waffling still. And I just keep coming back to this thing of these days, every time I play Stormcast, I have fun, just flat out fun, even though they get usually raffle stomped. But I don't know, there's just something, I guess it's a throwback to the very early days of the game when that's all you had. I keep thinking to myself, I know I like these guys. Why don't I just build an army of Stormcast? And I don't know, I might do that, but it's too late. I got to get my Seraphon going for Nova, period. So, but anyway, let's take a quick break before we jump into the lore.
Sounds good.
And now for something completely different.
All right, so here we are with the lore of the show, which is the conclusion of our 4-part narrative series, which we had no idea was going to be 4 parts, but it just turned out that way.
A little bit of happenstance for you.
Yeah. And so what we're going to do is we're going to continue the execution phase of what you're going to be looking at as far as hurdles along the way. And we touched on this briefly the last time, and I want to hit it again, but you have to determine early on what role terrain is going to play in your campaign.
Yes.
And is it going to be one of the defining factors, or is it simply going to be, hey, let's play a game, let's sort out the terrain and put it on the board. Now, if you look at something like the Nova narrative, each one of those tables is absolutely themed. The scenario is designed around that. If you look at Holy Havoc with Steve Herner and the amazing effort that goes into those thematic boards, there's so many events that are based around this is the board setup and the scenario is designed around this. The catch there is, of course, you have to have the skills to build that.
Yep.
You have to have the wherewithal financially to be able to put it all together, or maybe spread it among your group. Who knows? Maybe you can, con your players into making tables for you.
Terrain is one of those things that gets so overlooked because it's mostly just line of sight blocking and competitive play, right?
Right.
Like that's all it's there to do is be a speed bump, or maybe you can, overgrow it if you're, Sylvanath, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not interactive. And I think that's where you really have a lot of space to work in developing your campaign and your boards, is making sure the terrain, if at least one table is, you can interact with it, right? It does something, right? Like you're hunting mushrooms, right? That's one thing. Or, maybe you could, beseech the tree, or something like that to give you some of its fruit. And depending on what you roll, it's rotten or it's not. And that has a different effect, right? Yeah. There are any number of ways you could do it. The terrain could fight back. Right.
And that it could be a player.
Yeah.
And, I forgot who it was that said, but, the third player in any game is the terrain. And it's actually quite true. Even though we discount it a lot in a competitive game, in reality, you are planning, hey, can I Can I find a fire lane? Can I find an avenue of approach? Can I use this? So it is playing a part, even though in a competitive game, it's a rather different kind of part because you're looking to gain whatever advantage you can. You flip that over to a narrative and like, the Nova Open tables. Each one of them, that scenario is completely based around the terrain on the board.
Yep.
It is everything about every objective is tied to that terrain. Everything you're doing is based on the board that you're at. And that makes it just nutty fun. But there's, I've got to say, the guys spend most of the year working and fixing and cleaning up and fixing up those boards so that they are that way. And if you're going to do a one-off event, are you willing to put that kind of effort into it? Now, if you want to do something like a Storm Vault, GW makes the kits for those. You can buy it right off the shelf.
Yep.
If you want to do a forest, guess what? Play Sylvaneth. But, there's some GW terrain, but quite literally like that meme we saw that was like your average pet store has better terrain than GW store. Yeah. And I hate to say it, but it's kind of true. Unless you want the same thing over and over again on every table. And I would say look at other game systems. Look at like Star Wars Legion and all the crazy built tables that are at those events. Look up Holy Havoc and, Steve Herner and what he does out there and the pictures of those boards if you want inspiration. But understand there is a ton of time in that. You may as well put a lot of your personal projects aside, like your armies.
Yep.
And focus on that because it takes a while, which is, when I do LVO, we try to set up tables that are cool and fun to play on, but the scenarios are not based on that.
Yeah.
It's, I think the hit of the last LVO was the Citadel Castle from way back when. Everybody wanted to play on that board because that's a cool little throwback piece of terrain. But, other than that, no, I cannot devote that kind of stuff, mostly because I have to put it in my car to go 500 miles to what are you doing? You're driving into the ocean? It's the allergy meds.
Yeah. Well, in a pinch for fantasy terrain, particularly for AOS, I think the Lord of the Rings terrain is absolutely out of this world.
Oh my God.
Like, I don't know if you can necessarily do better. And a lot of it's generic enough, right? Like the Lake Town houses.
Oh yeah.
Those are
beautiful.
Amazing.
Absolutely beautiful.
Even the Rohan Fort, like
the Palisades are just perfect for orcs and any kind of destruction army.
Dol Guldur, amazing terrain. God. Like it's just next level stuff, right? In a pinch, Warcry has a lot of good stuff.
Warcry is phenomenal scattered terrain.
Yeah. But that's what it has to be, scattering, because you want to have very tall things with Warcry because it's meant to be played on that level. But the trees that just came out recently, those are pretty tall, and those are amazing, right? You can make some really interesting, complex boards with those.
That whole jungle theme is so well crafted out to where it's not, you're locked into, this can only be a jungle board.
Yeah.
It's so well done.
Yep.
When GW does terrain, they do it amazingly well. It's just that they don't do a lot of it. And I have to imagine it probably doesn't sell all that well. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at even on 40K side where I think they devote a lot more effort to terrain.
Oh God, yeah.
When you look at boards at tournaments, it's not hardly anything. It's like cardboard that's been shaped into an L.
Yes.
That's just as far as they'll go with it, and it doesn't have that really fun flair because it's just, I need it to do the thing.
And, that's the thing is when you're setting up a large scale competitive event like that, you don't want terrain to be the deciding factor on a table. You do want L-shaped buildings and styrofoam. And, Frontline Gaming came out with whole ranges of Necron, Orc, Space Marine, you name it, terrain, where the footprints for the sets are exactly the same.
Yep.
So that you can have the theme you want, but you're going to have a game that plays fairly.
Yeah.
So that neither side is, when we do the narrative stuff, we don't care about that.
Nope.
Advantage from terrain because normally it's baked in.
Yeah.
We bake that advantage / disadvantage into our rules. So that's awesome. That's awesome.
Another thing too is depending on the realm that you're in, that could influence your terrain as well.
Oh, yeah.
So make sure you consider that when building up, because you don't want to be like, oh yeah, we're totally in Akshi, but it's like, and they have the climates in every single one of them, but you want a little fire in there, a little sand or something.
Yeah.
Just to give it that feel of it being Akshi, right? I think Chamon would be like the hardest one.
Oh boy, unless you're really into painting your terrain metallics.
Yep.
I mean, because just the pure descriptions of that realm it's so metal.
So much metal, and then crystalline, and like it'd probably be hard to look at a certain point. In fact, if someone shined a light at the wrong angle, you'd probably blind everyone.
Jesus, yeah, it could be gross, like disco balls going off all
I was just gonna say that. Yeah, in the center of the board, we just have a disco ball that's going, oh, God.
Oh, God.
Here come the headaches.
I so hate Silver Tower.
But that's another fun thing, too, is when you have those larger pieces like you were talking about and how it draws the eye to it. There's fun scenarios you can make where, like, you have to siege that thing and you, like, do damage points to it until you bring it down, right? There was an old scenario, I think it was in the first release of AOS, where you would have to essentially run across a board and take down a tower before they complete a ritual.
Right.
And that was such a fun scenario.
Yes.
Right. And it felt like you're actually marching forward to take down this tower based off how it was set up. And it was so cool. I'm
so surprised they've never updated that scenario for any, battle pack that's come out. I don't recall it in any of the battle packs. But you're right. It was such a fun scenario because you had a very stated goal for both sides. And that actually was so much fun to play through. Oh,
yeah. Some of the fights were amazing. I mean, I think you probably need to limit what flyers can do in that scenario, because that's usually how people would end up winning, is like, oh, I flew on top of your tower and I destroyed it, and they couldn't get up there because they didn't have flyers or something, So it just got to make sure you temper a little bit. But like, look back, I can't remember the name of the scenario.
I think it was just Stop the Ritual or
something like that. But look back to the old
cleansing. Yeah, it was in the very first original book.
Yeah. It was such a fun scenario. And that's what your terrain can do. That's why your terrain can be, more than just really pretty pieces that you work around, right?
Yeah, and you have to really decide, do you want the terrain to define the campaign? Or, even if it's just a one-day thing at a store, do you want that terrain to determine what the games are going to be? Or are you going to be more along like what I said, like I do, is I make the scenarios and then I try to make the boards pretty but fair.
Yeah.
But stressing on the pretty.
Yeah.
Because if there's a material advantage to one side or the other, it'll be figured out in the first game, and then you'll just modify things from there.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to, unless you have honest to God bespoke tables set up, don't be afraid to let your players move things around. I know at LVO last time, there were some models that were, this is a narrative event. Bring what you want to play.
Yeah.
Have some fun. So there were some models that were considerably bigger than you might imagine should be on an AOS board. And yes, you have to, let's move that building so that it can set up legally.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're not going to have any fun.
Yep.
And we're here to have fun. And nobody cared. Neither side was like, oh, that's bull crap.
Yeah.
No, it's fun. But keep that definitely in mind. Want to move on now to a triple. This is rewards, scoring, and pairing, which seems like a weird thing to have all together, but they do really fit together. And the first thing I want to hit is rewards. What are you going to give for rewards across the campaign? And this is really going to depend on how long your campaign is going to be. If this is a 1 day, 3 scenarios at the store, you can get away with giving out really ganga rewards.
Yeah.
You can give away artifacts of power. You can give away, 250 extra points in your list. If you want to do a long-term campaign, however, you need to kind of keep any bonuses, any rewards that you give manageable and counterable. Stressing the counterable.
Yep.
You don't want to give the flaming sword of fire that is impervious and renders the user unable to be killed in the first game.
No.
Because that just makes it no fun for anybody. And if nobody has the shield of killing that sword, then there's just no point. That guy wins all the games. So what you really want to do is balance out your rewards with the time base.
Yep.
So short time base, big rewards. Long-term campaign, if you're planning this to go over 6 weeks at, regularly scheduled changes, each week is a different blah, blah, blah. Give out smaller rewards. Don't hand away the store in week 1, because then you'll find yourself trying to do like GW does, where, each one has to be better than the last.
Yeah.
And you reach a point where it's unmanageable. And again, this is where you have to keep runaway prevention in your head.
Yes.
If you have things that you're handing out, even if it's like 100 extra points to play, or if you're letting people grow their army in size, if there's not some mechanic for everyone to catch up, you'll end up seeing these games. Let's say you started at 1,000 and you're going to grow it to 2,000. It's really hard to balance a game when one guy has 1,750 and the other guy has 1,250.
Yep.
That 500 points can be insurmountable, or it could be meaningless in some games.
Yeah.
So keep in mind, there's got to be a mechanic to even the playing field. I mean, because nobody wants a boring game.
No, that's very true. The runaway thing is so important here. It's more likely to happen in that short campaign that you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like if you have a 1-day 3 scenario, like, yeah, you kind of need a runaway so that way you can get to the final match, right?
Yeah.
But over the course, it should slow grow. And the thing is, if you don't have the counter ability, right, it's going to make it unfun, right? Just unfun for some people, right? Who like, oh, I didn't get the, invisibility cloak of invisibility.
Right.
And so I'm not able to hide my guy, and so he just gets shot off the board by the shooting army that just came out. City
Yeah.
somewhere. And so I've run into that before, where I've been playing, at a campaign at the store or something like that, and some people get artifacts.
Right.
And not just artifacts that grow in power over time.
Yeah.
Right. But in order to get that, you had to play a certain number of games more than anyone else in your Grand Alliance, right? And so then people who have the time are more likely to get those things. And then when you go up against them, then if it's a feels bad moment because they have this amazing, powerful item in their possession.
Yeah.
And the only way you can beat it is, I don't know, throw your whole army into whatever has it and hope you kill it right away.
Yeah.
It creates significant issues for balance, right?
And fun and lack of fun. It's so debilitating. And one of the reasons why I use the card system, the cards and coins at LVO, is I have the ability to influence it directly as a god that I am. Well, I mean, when you're the Neo, you are God.
Yeah.
And, you're not Sigmar, you're a real god.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Siggy. But, the reason for the card and coin mechanic is let people buy stuff.
Yeah.
You win big, you get lots of coin, you can buy cool toys. When that person is now facing, and we're going to get to this when we talk about pairings, when they're facing the guy that lost the first game and has no coins and hasn't been able to upgrade anything, I can drop 2 cards on that guy and say, hey, you know what? A courier came in and handed you these items, and the general said you might need these. And now you haven't done anything to water down the guy's win.
Yeah.
He still has his cool stuff, but the other guy has a chance to play in the game.
Yeah.
And another reason why I love the Anvil of Apotheosis and growing your character along the way during the games is you can tailor your character that you're building to what you're weakest at.
Yeah.
If you're having all kinds of issues with melee monsters coming after you and just darken up your whole line, you're going to build your hero to be a counter melee monster.
Yeah.
And boom. And, the rules are there to let you do that, which is so wonderful. Thank you, GW. No, I mean, really, if you look at Anvil of Apotheosis critically, you can see a lot of places where in the narrative mindset, that system was designed to allow a certain level of flexibility to allow you to fill holes in your army.
Yeah.
To, if you're playing the Iron Jaws and you're really feeling the lack of ability to cast spells, you can fix that.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful. Okay, so when we start talking about the rewards that you're going to be giving away as part of your campaign, one thing I want to stress highly is that you reward people for winning games. Never, ever penalize someone for losing games. And I know GW stresses this a lot, but there's a marketing reason. Never, ever reward people for playing more games.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is you're basically telling the guy who's the college student who literally is blocked out 5 days a week and can only play on Saturday, that you have no chance of winning.
Yeah.
Or the professional dude who has a 9 to 9 job and has to, provide for the family and can only get out on Sunday. You're telling him he can't win. Whereas, the dude who is a Uber driver who has nothing but time. I don't know that that's true.
Yeah.
I just pulled that out of my butt. Where he can play 7 games a week. If you reward him seriously for playing those 7 games, and you're literally building a penalty into the other guys and saying, you can't win this because little Freddie over here has a better job.
Yeah.
Or he could be a truck driver for Taylor Swift, in which case you lose.
Yeah.
Because he's going to buy everything.
Yeah.
So anyway, again, never, ever, ever penalize people for losing or not playing more games. GW does the play more games, get more stuff because they want their stores filled with people playing games. Okay. It's an obvious marketing mentality. If there's a group of people rolling dice, playing games, and having fun in a game store, it becomes a more welcoming place and it sells more models than a store that is completely empty and you just walk in and look around.
Yeah, and there's depending on the structure of your campaign, right? It's sometimes harder, sometimes easier to control that, right? So, for example, when you have literally the weekend, right, where you have we do six rounds, right? That is structured in that way, and you can control that a lot better.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because everyone's playing the one game in round 1.
You betcha.
The one game in round 2. But when you're doing it over a course of weeks, and let's say you can't always be there, people can meet up for games, then you would limit it to something like, all right, so you can, say there's 6 scenarios.
Yeah.
Right? So you can play 2 scenarios a week over this 3-week campaign. You must count the first game.
Yeah.
But you can still play with other people. You just don't get anything from it,
Or even have it to where, only the first 2 games count.
Yeah.
Or, whatever makes sense for your group.
Yeah, I'd say the first game per map.
Yeah.
Right? So if you have the 6, then you count 6 total.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
So that might be one way to structure it, There's other limiters that you can build in as well. And by the way, just to be totally clear, I think it's apparent, but we didn't quite say it. We're talking rewards throughout the campaign, not the prizes at the end.
No,
Right.
we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But these are how you manage progression through your campaign.
Yep.
Right? So you have to look at the structure of your event. And we talked about that, I think it was part 1, right?
Yeah.
Where we talked about what are you going to be doing? Is it Garage Hammer? Is it Massive Halls? Right? How are you going to structure that? Then you need to plan your limiters based off of that.
Yep. And it seems odd that we keep talking about limiters and limiting this and toning down that. But honestly, campaigns fall apart for several reasons. One of which, to me, the most prevalent of which is there is a runaway.
Yep.
There's just the guy that comes in, wins the first 2 games, and he's got so many rewards that no one can touch him, and it becomes boring for everyone else. Or it, sometimes they just drag on too long. There's not enough reward. But more often than not, it's simply because things aren't balanced. And I'm going to hit in any game, somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose.
Yes.
And in X amount of cases, they're going to draw. But let's not talk about that. The winner needs to be rewarded for winning.
Yes.
And they need to feel like a victory gave me something tangible.
Yes.
And I am happy that I won. The loser has already had the penalty of losing the game. What you don't want to do at this point is rub salt into the wound. If you're playing with a loss mechanic where, if you have units wiped out, you have to pay whatever the currency you're using is to bring that unit back, or you have to do casualty rolls or what have you. Well, the guy that gets tabled in the first game might show up to the second game with half an army. You've got to have some sort of mechanic in there to allow that person to catch up, to get back and have a fighting chance. Unless you have a really hardcore group of players. And again, you have to know your audience. If you have those hardcore group and that person doesn't mind playing on the back foot, in which case, hey, go for it. Just no reward for losers, but you need to have something in there so that the loser can maintain at least status quo. And I always call it return to baseline.
Yes.
So that when you start the second game, you don't have any advantages, but you're no worse off than when you started the first game.
Yeah.
Whereas the guy that won now has toys. He has extra stuff to play with, whereas you're still playing at square one, but you've got to be able to return everyone to baseline. And the easy way I did that at LVO was even the loser got coins.
Yeah.
To, just call it whatever you want, participation trophy. I don't care what you call it. Participation's fine, but it gave them the ability to replace losses.
Yeah.
And maintain their ability to play a fun game going forward. And if, in that weird, odd case where you get tabled and there's no amount of, the commanding general just sent you a new army.
Yeah.
Because I believe in you. You just got whomped. And if it happens again, you're out. No, there has to be that mechanic in there that allows that person to stay in. And this even counts for like a 1 day 3 game, a 2 day 6 game narrative event at a store or what have you, a rented place, what have you. Nobody wants to play a game that they know they're going to lose.
Exactly.
And what is the point of forcing that when you're designing and you can design it out?
Yeah.
So design that out. Whatever it takes for your methodology, make sure that every player gets to return to baseline in every game.
Yes.
So, and one of the most horrible things that I realized being a Neo and running an event at a big convention was, how in the hell are we going to do pairings?
Yeah.
For a competitive event, it's super easy.
Yep.
Winners play winners, losers play loser. There are entire companies that are built around, I'm looking at you, Best Coast Pairings. They're literally built around the idea of the main thing that we do is pairings.
Yeah.
And we put the right people playing the right people. When you get into narrative, all that goes out the window.
Yeah.
And you literally have to, all the things that you might have to think about, if you are doing specific tables, you don't want one person to play on the same table twice. If you're doing a growth campaign, you don't want the guy that's won 3 games straight and now has X amount of value added to his army to play the guy that has lost the first 3 games.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be coming in, hopefully at baseline, but he's going to be at a severe disadvantage. And so there are so many crazy things you have to think about. And the biggest part of this is when you're figuring out how long your rounds are going to be.
Yeah.
When you're looking at that gap between rounds, think about yourself. How quickly are you going to be able to, number 1, tally up the results? Number 2, hand out all the candy that you have promised the players that they're going to get.
Yeah.
And then number 3, set them up for the next game.
Yeah.
It is a hell of a lot more onerous than you might think. And quite literally, if you are running this thing by yourself, it's a pain in the butt. Now, if you're running like a 6-week campaign, it's super easy. You get all the results on, say all the games are due by Sunday, and you can send the pairings out Tuesday.
Yep.
And you can figure it out from there. But if you're doing an event at a store, a 3-game, you literally have minutes to make those decisions.
Yes.
And they're not super easy, which is one of the reasons why I allowed people to buy grudges. And
yeah,
because you can let them determine pairings, and that's so much fun because, it happened a lot more than once where the guy with the destruction army that has won 2 games is like, who's the order person that's won 2 games?
Yeah.
I want to take that down. And you just go, it's him. You go talk to him.
Yeah.
And boom, they've done the pairing for you.
Yep.
And life is good. And very rarely does the guy who's, just won 2 games say, who's the worst record here? I want to play that guy next.
Yeah.
You don't ever see that.
Nope.
But a lot of times you'll see the guy that's lost 2 will come up to you and like, who's won the most? I want to play that guy. I want to redeem myself. So your players are going to help you with this, but please, for the love of God, keep it in your mind that if you're doing a one-shot event, a 1 or 2 day thing, give yourself the time.
Yeah.
And here's what happens when you're running an event that goes over a couple of days at a convention. You will have an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, depending on your round times, of sheer boredom while your players are having fun.
Yep. And
you're just doing paperwork. And then when those games are over and they're starting to get ready for the next session, you are frantic. So that's how it goes. And it's fun. It's a blast. It gets your heart pumping.
Right.
So yeah, just when it comes to pairings, be aware of what it's going to take, and also be aware that most of the software solutions that are out there probably aren't going to work for you. Now, if you're super good at doing spreadsheets and stuff and you can type all this stuff in really quick and you have an algorithm in your head, more power to you.
Oh, yeah.
And contact me after the show because I want your spreadsheets. So that's going to bring us around to actually making your pack and writing down everything that you've done. And you have this amazing idea. You've figured out every single system that you're going to need, every mechanic that you're going to need. You have figured it all out. Now you have to get it into the hands of your players.
Yep.
Now, what is the one piece of advice that every writer tells every writer every single time? And it's quite simple. When you're done writing your pack, give it to 5 people that don't like you and let them read it. They will tell you what's wrong with the pack. Trust me. It is a true pain in the butt to write a pack.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You have to cover everything. You have to word it carefully because there are rules lawyers out there.
Yes.
Who will twist whatever you've said. And the best part about being the god of a narrative event is you can just look at them and say, no, it works this way because I said so.
Yes.
That's awesome. But, I joke about it a little bit, but literally have other people read it so that they can catch your grammatical errors, so that they can ask you the dumb questions that you didn't think of. It's like anything that you're going to produce, anything that you're going to write to be put in front of other people for any reason whatsoever. You have to have multiple people look at it just in order for it to be good.
Yeah. This is where it all comes together, right? This is where you're trying to put your bow on it, but you need the editing process, right? So you have great concepts, you have great ideas, you've been jotting them down. This is where you put it all together, look at it as a whole, and then give it to someone else to tear apart, right? That way you can fill those gaps. You can complete your pack, right? So this takes time. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort, right? But if you do it right, you're going to see your vision through, right? And so this is pretty much where the payoff is, right? Well, for you, the payoff for the players is something we'll talk about next. But this is where you finally get to say, I did the thing.
Yes.
Right? So don't just, finish writing your last note and then say, I'm done.
Yeah.
It's perfect. I don't need to do anything else.
Let me upload it to the site or send it out to the players, because invariably there will be so many more questions. And I mean, when you're writing it, you know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
And the crazy part is very few other people do. And it's, one thing I will always say is I have my wife read my packs, not because she knows anything about the game, but because she's going to look at it without knowing anything about the game. And she's going to be like, this sentence makes no sense. Not just because it talks about, Be'lakor, but because it's, your grammar is completely off. Yeah. And, that's incredibly helpful right there. But don't forget to have people look at your work, poke all the holes in it, and force you to answer the uncomfortable questions. It's hey, you don't have to love it, but you have to make it to where your players can figure out what the goal of the campaign is.
Yeah.
without having to consult a thesaurus, a dictionary, and quite frankly, a higher power to figure out what it was you meant. That's not fun.
Right? Sort of like having to go to all the first games of a pack.
Yeah.
In order to make sure everyone understands what you're saying, because you...
Well, and yeah, I mean, there are times you can use your players as quality control, but you, again, have to know your group.
Yeah.
And if it's a convention kind of thing, you're not going to want to do that. Trust me.
No.
Don't do that.
That'd be much more like a long-term campaign type thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Where, your players, regardless, are going to want to be in it, right? They want to play that game. They want to play that campaign.
Yeah.
But they're willing to work with you over the course of it to iron out the wrinkles, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is it. This is where it pays off for you. But let's talk about how it pays off for your players.
Prizes. Oh, my God. Prizes is such a crazy thing.
Yes.
And it really comes down to what resources you have that you can pull from, who you know, what you have, and, can you get a sponsor? Can you get someone to hook you up with stuff? And it's not hard, but it's also not as easy as you might think.
Yeah.
So, wow, prizes. Oh, I have such a hard time with this. At the last LVO, I ended up giving a lot of stuff from my personal collection out, just because I wanted to have stuff to hand people.
Yeah.
And, in the game, one of the players actually made the trophies, which was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Printed them up, spray painted them. They were beautiful. And then, some of the other prizes I got were phenomenal. Just going over and talking to Byron over at Artis Opus and asked him to judge the paint thing. And he threw in some paintbrush sets as prizes. And I'm like, you rock, dude. I'm just saying, you rock. So...
And that's one of the things you have to be careful of. We're dealing with narrative, right?
Yes.
And so if you make the actual prizes something coveted, then people are going to go in wanting to play more competitive, right? So that creates a problem, right? So again, you want to make sure your players get some good prizes for the effort they put in, right? But you don't want to make it a cash prize or something like that.
Right.
Like trophies are great, because it's something they can have and display, and it's a symbol of what they did.
Yes.
Right? Absolutely awesome. Giving away small items, right, I think is really good too.
Yeah.
So first place gets, here's a $35 model with it,
Sure.
right? Second place gets, here's some dice, like those little things I think are really good incentives, particularly if it's like a short-term campaign
Right.
type thing. If it's an event, like a convention event, I can see maybe a little something punchier, but, or maybe the real prize are all the friends we made along the way.
You swore you were going to do that. It's the truth. I mean, the best prize is going to be getting a whole bunch of players together and having a great time.
Yep.
So while it may sound tropey, it actually is true. It's the most fun. The reality is giving some paintbrushes to the guy that wins best painted. I put right there in my pack, I'm not going to give a sportsmanship award out at a narrative event.
Mm-hmm.
I expect everyone to be a sportsman in a narrative event. So that to me does not warrant a prize.
Mm-hmm.
But we did have a first place, second place, third place, and that was based on the coins you made, not wins, not losses. How much money did you make for the caravan? Yeah. Which was the focus of the event, was making money for other people. It was corporate. So, and again, you hit the nail on the head. Don't make the prizes at a level that is going to make competition come to the forefront.
Yeah.
And in fact, most of the times you probably should not even say what the prizes are. But, if you know someone that runs a trophy shop and you can get all this stuff cheap, my God, go for it. Do all that other stuff. But also don't be afraid to just print out certificates and get some dollar store frames.
Yeah.
More often than not, people just want an indicator of their accomplishment and they don't really care what it is.
Yeah.
You know, when I won the Scrapmaster thing at the expo, I'm more proud of that little piece of paper than I am of some of the event things that I got from Feast to Blades.
Yeah.
You know, just because that was more fun.
Yeah.
It was way more challenging and fun and what have you. So, you know, just tailor your rewards. Again, know your group. If you're going to be a Neo for a worldwide convention, Adepticon, you are expected, and you're also handed some, you know, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
But you are expected to have things at a different level than if you're doing Zippy's Game Store in Oshkosh on a Saturday. I don't think people really expect you to give away, you know, an entire set of Leviathan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably not. You know, if you have the wherewithal, hey, you know, do what you feel is right. But the long and the short of it is have some rewards, but make sure they're not over the top.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to go out there and get sponsors. You know, I got one without thinking about it. But really, I was more than willing to just give away stuff from my collection to people. You know, and what I was doing was just basically raffling off during the games, just picking one person randomly, not caring where they were in the standings whatsoever. Just, hey, you know, you're getting something there's a chance you're going to get something every game.
Yeah.
And, you know, give a set of War Dogs to a person that only plays Lumineth. Hey, you know what? You can give it to a buddy.
Yeah.
I don't care. This is what you got. Shut up.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another fun way to put it too, is like if you have these actual tangible prizes that you'd be giving away, right? Is doing them more like a raffle.
Yeah.
Because then like you're sending this message like, we're just here to have fun. I want you to enjoy this campaign. Yeah, you'll get some trophies at the end or certificates or whatever, but the important thing is we're having fun, right? And you might get a little something in between, you know? And I think that kind of keeps the spirits up too. And people are like, oh my God, I can't wait to get to the next round because then maybe I'll win something.
Yeah.
You know, it's super fun that way.
And it is. It just adds a little bit of excitement and what have you, but don't make the rewards the focus. And so kind of in conclusion, at the end of this narrative building lesson plan that we've been putting out, the whole idea, the whole encapsulation is most important thing is you have to know your audience. Mm-hmm. If your players are super flexible and just good players and they don't mind playing on the back foot or what have you, you can create a much different campaign than if you are doing this for 12 people at the store that are brand new to Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
You need to change things. And I would also say the number 2 lesson is a 2-part sort of thing is don't be afraid to fail.
Yes.
Because chances are your first 1 or 2 might fail miserably until you hone in on a good idea.
Yeah.
Or a good set up. And as a corollary to that, don't be afraid to end it early if it's going south.
Good call.
There's nothing worse than feeling like I have to play this game even though there's really no reason for me to do it.
Yeah.
You know, if you see that it's gone south, that the mechanics just did not work the way you intended, just stop it.
Yeah.
Say, hey guys, this isn't working. Let's pull back and we'll try it again in a couple of weeks with a new approach.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to do that. And then along the way, rule number 3, make sure you're doing things that are within your capability. Don't try to put together, you know, a worldwide animosity type campaign if you have no idea how to build a web front end for something like that.
Exactly.
You know, if you don't know and you don't have that resource available, don't do it. Do what you can inside of your skill set. And as your skill set grows, you'll be able to bite off more and more. You know, I'm sure Steve Herner did not start out when he was 18 as the master of narrative events and terrain building. It took him a while to get to that point.
Yes.
And I'm sure a lot of people helped him along the way.
Yep.
And that's how you're going to have to do it too.
Yes.
We all go through that. And we all fail miserably. Don't worry about it. It's every single thing that you fail at. I don't want to say it makes you stronger, but it's going to give you lessons learned to move forward with, and you will know not to do that again.
Exactly. And so if you're going to be trying this as your first time ever trying to set up a narrative event, right? Probably best to start out a little smaller, right? See if you can just get a few friends together, almost like you're doing like a D&D campaign type thing, right? And then test it out. Guys, how are my writing skills? What can we improve for next time? Get the feedback. All right, this is great. So next time you can expand your circle, right? Nice. Maybe then you can start reaching out to the LGS, right? And say, hey, I want to run this narrative campaign here. Would you guys be okay if I do that, right? Oh, yeah, we can give you these times, right? These resources, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
right?
Here's our boxes of terrain. Go through and get what you need. Yep. Oh, yay.
Which is a good thing when you're working with an LGS, trying to just get terrain on the board, right? Or go to the pet shop.
Yes.
There's so many great items there that help the terrain part. But, you know, just ease yourself into it, right? And then once you start seeing what you do successfully and also what you don't, then you'll be able to move forward. And you'll be able to make better and better narratives that hopefully, with good word of mouth, people want to play.
Yep. That's the best part. And, of course, rule number 4, which probably should have been rule number 1, is listen to your players. Yeah. You know, you may have all the greatest ideas in the world about how this should run, and this is what I envision as the campaign, and you will follow that. And if everybody in the campaign says, this sucks, chances are it's time to call it and start again. When I keep saying that you're the god of your campaign, you are. But try to be a benevolent god, you know, try to be the guy that's making a fun environment and not Jesus Christ, we got to play that again.
Right.
So, yeah, you know, keep a weather eye on what your players are telling you. And, you know, every year at LVO, I have in the pack, there is a feedback sheet. And I tell people there when I'm speaking to them, I'm a 27-year veteran. You cannot hurt my feelings. Okay. You simply cannot say something to me that is going to make me cry. Okay. Well, you might, but it won't matter.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have to be that way too, is you have to be able to take the feedback, especially the negative feedback. I have learned a hell of a lot more from those sheets that came into me that said, I really like this and this and this, but this and this did not work. I thought that was really dumb. And when you see that on 5 of the 20 sheets, okay, 25% of your people thought that was really dumb. That's actually a decently large number that you should probably look at it.
Yeah.
If there is something on every sheet, change it.
Yes.
Just change it.
Immediately.
Yes. And, you know, but take all of that stuff and fold it into the next one. Figure out what they didn't like. You know, this year I got rid of a whole bunch of the things that were at the Caravan stores because in the previous 2 years, no one had ever used them. They just did not feel like they were necessary.
Yeah.
So why have the overhead? Just get rid of that stuff. And I mean, we're talking about some of I thought was the coolest mechanic was the arcane suppression and arcane vulnerabilities where, you know, you could buy these cards that would add to your casting. And then the other guy could play arcane feedback, which if you played that, he could play it, roll a die, and in certain cases, he could give feedback to your caster.
Yeah.
But nobody bought those. Nobody thought that was a good enough mechanic to warrant spending their money on. Okay, get rid of them. If they're not appealing to the players, it's a lose it.
Yes.
No point in it. So be ready to, you know, fold that feedback in. And, you know, most importantly, rule number A, have fun.
Yeah.
Make sure everybody's having fun. That's the only goal of what we're doing here is to have fun. We're playing a game that can take up to 3 hours. You don't want it to be a miserable 3 hours.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So anything else, or should we cut it off here?
Yeah, I think that's it. So like Bill said, we'll be putting all this together, you know, presenting a pack type thing for your review. So we'll be working on that. I don't know when we'll get that one out, but we'll work on that, get it together, present it to y'all on the podcast, and also release it for you.
Yeah, it'll also go up on We Are the Neon, because if I don't, Nuno will kill my everything.
Every single part of your everything.
Yes, he will destroy my life, which is fair. He's got that coming. So one quick note on the contest. It is now Sunday the 13th. So that means Tuesday the 15th at midnight. All contest entries have to be in. You won't have heard this by then. So if you're hearing it now and you forgot, it's too late. But who knows? I've added some stuff to the contest bags. So We're going to have fun. And we will announce winners on the next show.
I'm excited for that.
I am too. I'm actually kind of pumped. I don't look forward to the shipping, but, that always happens.
Yeah.
It'll always, whenever somebody wins, it's going to be the guy from Ecuador.
Yeah.
Or worse, the guy from Australia. Because I will send it out, and 6 months later, he'll be like, oh, I got it. I'm like, but I sent it. And he's like, no, it doesn't matter. This is Australia. Things are different here. So,
oh, goodness.
Yeah, but it don't matter where you live. I don't care. I'll ship it. We can ship anywhere.
All right, folks. Thanks so much for joining us, listening to the last part of the narrative. Look forward to seeing y'all after dark.
The music in the show is used courtesy of Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com and is used under the Creative Commons license. The Rolling Bad podcast itself is protected under the Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International License. Information for this license can be found at creativecommons.org.